What is up, guys? In this video, I'm going to be going over what my favorite loadout is so far in Fortnite Chapter 6 Season 3. As always, if you guys do find this video to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below what your favorite setup is so far this season. As always, a lot of this comes down to personal preference, and I think for the most part, this is one of the more open seasons as far as the meta goes. I think there's a lot of viable options in the loot pool, and it's really going to depend on your preferences and your playstyle. I think I definitely have found the weapons and items that I prefer to use this season. The most simple is going to be the shotgun. As always, I think shotguns are incredibly important in Fortnite, and this season is no different. This season we have the Sentinel Pump shotgun, the Twin Fire Auto shotgun, and the Outlaw shotgun. And if you guys remember back to Chapter 6 Season 2, we had all of these items in the loot pool, I believe. And so we already know how these items play, and we already know how they compare to one another. And I think the Sentinel Pump is just far and away the best choice in the loot pool right now. The Twin Fire, as far as has been one of my least favorite shotguns since it was added. It feels like a weird middle ground between like an auto shotgun where it doesn't shoot as fast as some of the other auto shotguns, but it also doesn't have that great of damage either. I've never really understood the point of this weapon. And then the Outlaw shotgun is not really something I ever enjoyed either. With it only having 2 rounds, it's incredibly unforgiving. And it also has very, not very low range, but it has low range and a lot of spread, making it pretty inconsistent. And you don't want to combine inconsistent with something that has only 2 rounds. You just barrel stuff somebody with the Outlaw, you could certainly get kills. And then the Twin Fire is the same case. But for most fights and how I want to play, I think the Sentinel choice is far and away the best option. And when we had these weapons in Chapter 6 Season 2, it seemed like a majority of the community was set on that as well. Some people did like the pump and dump, but I think the Sentinel Pump was much more popular and much more preferred than the other shotguns. So I think this season is going to be no different. The Sentinel Pump is the shotgun that I want to have. Ranged weapons is where it gets interesting because there's a lot of viable options this season, but there's also a massive difference between this season and a lot of recent seasons, and that there's not really any red dot ARs in the loot pool or weapons with like sights on them. My favorite ranged weapon this season, I think, is definitely going to be the Spire AR, but as I said, there's plenty of good choices. I prefer to only use 2 weapons, that way I can carry heals and extra utility. So for me, the new DMR isn't really a good choice because it's not going to combo well with the pump shotgun. And by using the pump shotgun, I need my ranged weapon to be something that I, can combo off. So the DMR is just not something I want to use at all. Even if you were using like the Twin Fire Auto shotgun, you could maybe get by with the DMR. But this DMR's fire rate is so low that I feel like you're going to be really lacking in medium and close range. And I just really don't think that high of it. But I think the Spire rifle, the Hyperburst pistol, the Fury AR, the dual revolvers, and maybe even the Precision SMG are all solid in this spot. And it really just comes down to preference, playstyle, and just what feels best to you. And so far this season, the Spire AR has felt like best to me. I know this season's lack of red dot weapons has been a struggle for a lot of players to adapt to. But for me, I feel like the Spire AR is accurate enough to get by for fights most of the time at like the ranges I end up getting in. And since the Spire AR doesn't have like an incredibly fast fire rate, you can tap fire it in a lot of situations and maintain like perfect first shot accuracy while not losing out too much on like fire rate. If you're using something like the Fury AR that has a really fast fire rate, you can still tap fire this, but the comparison between full auto and tap firing is going to be much larger. Whereas the Spire AR, you can tap fire it, it works fine, and you can keep your weapon decently accurate. I'll probably have a video in a day or two kind of going over the Bloom weapons and like tips for using them for people who haven't used it as much. But I think the Spire AR is very good. It's accurate enough, as I said. It has a 50 round mag, which is incredible. And it has high damage, which is also something that I enjoy with it. It's not the greatest pump follow-up, but for me so far this season, it feels like it gets the job done, especially because it's the option that most people are using anyways. Very long range, it's obviously going to be much harder to use something like this than the DMR or any of the other red dot weapons. But this is a problem that everybody has. And as I said, I've seen a lot of people complain about this and have a hard time adapting. But just keep in mind, everybody is having this problem. And so it's not like you're fighting hollow twister ARs at range and you have to use this third person AR, right? When we have red dot weapons and third person weapons in the loot pool, the red dot weapon usually dominates. But without having those dominant red dot weapons in the loot pool this season, it opens you up to being more free to use those third-person weapons. And from my experience, just the long-range fights don't feel as necessary or prevalent this season as they did in past seasons. I think that's just an effect of having third-person weapons in the loot pool. My next item is going to be the base boost gloves. I think this is the best mobility item in the game right now. It is incredibly good mobility. I made a video on this yesterday explaining more how to use it. But when you use this well, you are very mobile, and it's a mobility item that recharges over time. And so once you kind of find one, you're set for a while. It does have durability, so you will maybe have to find replacements throughout the course of the game. It's not like you can just spam it all day and not think about it. But it's nice to just find a mobility item and then go about your day and be good to play the game. And I think when you learn how to use these base boost gloves, you'll have very effective mobility, and you'll be able to travel the map, push people, reset fights. You can do all that with these gloves. They're very good. You can also use it to break cover. And so the shooting effect of these gloves, if you're in the air or jump when you do it, your character will get thrown back. But if you're standing on the ground when you shoot them, you won't get thrown back at all. And it does a lot of structure damage. It'll basically one-shot porta bunkers. It'll knock people out of shield bubbles. And having that utility of just being able to remove anybody's cover whenever you want with these gloves, and having it be a mobility item in one, is incredibly overpowered. It would not surprise me at all if they reduce the structure damage on this. But this can be used to put out a lot of pressure in fights, and also just stop those like stalematey fights from happening. And I think one reason that a lot of people struggle with the third person ARs is they get into like stalematey fights where they're playing off cover and their opponent's playing off cover, and you're just looking for tags on a very small piece of the opponent. But if you just destroy their cover with the base boost glove, you're going to open them up to getting fried, and the Spire AR or any other AR ranged weapon you're using this season will melt the enemy player very quickly. So I think using these gloves not only as a mobility item, but a tool to remove enemy cover is something that is going to be an important factor this season. My next item is going to be heals. There's not really too much to talk about here. Big pots are great. Chug jugs are great. Whatever you want to carry, whatever you find in that match works best for you. I typically prefer big pots to the chug jug just because you can use them faster. Like the time to start healing is lower on the big pots. And then also I tend to find more throughout the course of the game, and so I can stay topped off at 3. A 200 chug jug obviously is more heals than 3 big pots, but once you start using it, you can't replenish it with others. That's why I usually just take the bigs, but as I said, it doesn't really matter too much. Just use whatever healing item you find and which one you like using. That's going to work best for you. This last item has a lot of variance in it, and it's going to come down to preference and playstyle and just like what you happen to find in that game. So I like having double mobility. I have the base boots gloves, and then I'll run something like shockwaves in that final slot, or the new Batman grappler that you can get from the Robin NPC for 600 gold. That grappler is incredibly powerful mobility once you get the cancel down. As I said earlier, I made a video about that yesterday talking about the mobility. But as I said, double mobility, I enjoy playing that this season. So either shockwaves or the grappler in this final slot. Another incredibly overpowered option is going to be the scanner device. I don't know the exact name of it off the top of my head, but it's like a little iPad thing that you can use to scan the area and mark enemies with. This is overpowered. I am very surprised this is in the game. You get a scan every 20 or 25 seconds, I think, and this item has no durability. It's just a cooldown. And you can actually drop it to your teammates, and the cooldown is individual to you. So you can spread it amongst the team. If you're playing team game modes, I would highly suggest having somebody in the squad carry it, or multiple people. And this is definitely something I take in situations where I'm not able to get double mobility, or maybe I run out of double mobility. Like let's say I'm running shocks, and then after the course of fighting, I am low on shocks now, and I have the choice of like one shockwave or the scanner. I might just take the scanner from that point on in the game. Early game, if you're able to find it, it's very good. In game, it's very good. Anytime you need to go into an area and you're not sure if there's any enemies in there, it's very good. One of the more broken, overpowered items I think we've ever had in Fortnite. It is surprising how good this is, and the fact that they like just left it like this. And then bubbles, bunkers can also be very good items to have in this slot as well. And that's why I was saying it kind of just depends on what you find and what you have. If I want to play more aggressive, I'll run double mobility. If I want to play more safe, or, you know, maybe I'm playing ranked or in a very sweaty match, I might be more inclined to run the scanner. But I think you're very open in this slot, and there's a lot of different choices here that you can run. Or if you have preference for something else, like any of the other hero items or just something you enjoy running, it can go in this slot as well. One final thing I want to talk about is going to be the dash sprite. This is something I often take advantage of, but I don't carry very frequently. These are going to be the orange sprites on the ground, and when you throw them on the ground, they give you dashes, which you can activate by hitting your jump button while in air. These are similar to the green water dashes we had in Chapter 5, although they don't negate fall damage. But I think these dashes are and always have been incredibly good fighting mobility, and so I often want to get dashes, and if I don't have dashes, I'm keeping my eyes out for the orange sprites. If you take these to the shrines, you will get 4 shockwaves, and one thing I often do in my early game is I get the sprite, get dashes, take it to the shrine. Now I have 3 dashes and my shockwaves for double mobility. But even if you don't want to run double mobility, I would highly suggest taking advantage of this orange sprite, even if you don't want to carry it, because you can get value out of it just by picking it up and throwing it down. And in team game modes, you can throw it down and everybody on your team can get dashes because it's an area of effect item. But that is going to be it for this video, and my preferred loadout so far this season is going to be the Sentinel Pump, the Spire AR, the base boost gloves, heals, and then some combination of double mobility, the scanner device, or maybe even cover. Let me know what your favorite setup is down in the comments below, and if you guys enjoyed this, found it helpful, informative, or interesting, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.